We are live. Happy Thursday. Dude, what's the bid? Episode 42. Kevin Hill will not be joining us today. He's tied up, moving. He's got a new crib in Melissa, Texas. Trying to get rid of some stuff, some artwork on the walls from his daughter at the old crib by end of day. So yeah, it'll just be myself and Will Jenkins here today.
What's up, Casey?
You know, it's another Thursday, grinding. But yeah, what's up in your world? I know I saw you at Manifest, and you guys have been doing a bunch of events. I'm sure a bunch of stuff since then. So what's new?
A lot of things. So at Manifest, announced that added a new partner to the business. Justin Turner is a good friend of mine. We used to work together at Coyote back in the day. Funny story. I was on the carrier floor at the time that he was a director on the customer facing side. And, he came to my desk one day and was like, "Hey, I think you should consider interviewing for this job they're about to post. It's a customer sales manager role." And it was, an incredible opportunity. But honestly, I don't know if I'd be sitting here right now if it weren't for Turner kind of advocating for me to go check out that role. This was fall of 2015. And I got the job and started at January of 2016, managing 9 customer sellers. But I was the first rep that Coyote ever promoted from being a carrier sales rep, individual contributor, to managing a group of 9 customer sellers. But in all honesty, man, it's because my guy had my back. So I'm glad to have him on the team to be able to build this business with.
Hey, man, that's awesome. It's cool to hear that's come full circle. Always good to have people looking out for you in the business. And yeah, it's a little bit, I guess, ass backwards, right? To go from being the carrier sales team to managing a bunch of customer sales reps. So yeah, it's pretty unique. But anywho, I was checking out your LinkedIn profile. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you kind of got into freight. Where are you from initially?
I'm from Chicago. I grew up in Maywood. It's the west side of Chicago. I live here now and have spent most of my adult life in Chicago. I lived in Atlanta for a little bit, and then I love to snowbird. So I'll get out of Chicago when it gets too cold and go someplace warm. Particularly partial to SoCal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful part of the country. I've only made it out there once. I was in San Diego for brother's bachelor party. It's
fun.
Another world out there, man. It's gorgeous.
It is. It's beautiful, man. There's something unique about being able to go to the beach 24/7, and the most that you really need is like a long, maybe a cardigan, maybe a hoodie or something like that. Like, I don't know, that weather's nice, so it's good.
It's predictable for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Especially if you're battling Chicago winters.
We are, man. Yeah. So, but I got into freight because of some friends. So my first job ever, I used to sell Cutco kitchen cutlery, and I did that. Yeah. It was sick.
So you played football, right? At Illinois Wesleyan. Mm-hmm. What position did you play? I think actually the first time I came across you on LinkedIn was you started getting back into weightlifting, and I saw you doing some squats. Damn, who is this guy throwing up this many plates? But you played football in college?
I did. I played corner at Illinois Wesleyan back in the day. It was a good time.
Okay. Is that D2 or what
D3
kind of football is that? D3 football?
Yeah.
Very cool. And you studied what, management and business while you were there?
My focus was business administration with the focus in marketing, which essentially meant that I knew I was going to be in sales. Right. So my first job at 18 was slinging blades, and I made $2,000 in my first 10 days. And I was like, yeah, I think sales is for me. I'm probably going to do this. Yeah.
It's funny how many people you come across that got their first gig in sales selling Cutco knives. And, I guess if you can sell Cutco knives, you can probably sell pretty much anything. So
you sure can.
What was that like? Was it the good old door knocking? What'd you learn from selling knives?
So at 18, I get this job. A friend of mine recommended me. I go to the interview, and come back and tell my parents, hey, I think I'm going to sell knives. And they're like, dude, you're crazy. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I can do this. So I go to training and they say, hey, you know, here's the target demographic you want to sell it to. They call them HM3s. So homeowners that were married and over 30. That's like the ICP for Cutco. And it makes sense, right? Like if you are a young bachelor, even if you have money, you probably don't spend money on like nice cutlery. You're out eating. So I opened up my high school directory and I called every single person, every parent of kids that I went to school with. And that's how I learned how to cold call in the beginning. They taught me how to do it, gave me a script, all that stuff, and learned how to handle objections and set appointments. And then it was a full cycle sales role. So I found my own leads. I cold called. After I cold called, I set appointments, went in there, demonstrated the product, wrote the order, closed that bad boy. And then the next leads would come as recommendations. So I would ask people that I, sat down and did a demo for. You got five or 10 people for me to go demonstrate Cutco to. So that was, I didn't do, I mean, some people do door knocking for Cutco. All of mine was like cold calling and then referrals.
Okay. That's brilliant. How did you craft this cold call script strategy? And then the referral piece is really interesting, right? I had my first job in sales as, I was going to be a financial advisor for Northwestern Mutual. Went through their sales training program. That was one of their, sales tactics, right? If you're able to get a referral from somebody that you're able to help out, it's much easier to make sales that way. So I'd love to learn more about how you kind of, thought about that process.
Yeah. So to be honest with you, I just did what they trained me to do. So there was a script for cold calling that we would use. And, as you get more and more comfortable with handling objections and you find your own spin to it, I would say that I have a kind of middle of the road sense of humor. I like to use humor in sales. So, like if an objection popped up, I would try to make the person laugh or something like that to kind of keep the conversation going. And then with referrals, in my opinion, you just can't be afraid to ask. I think a lot of reps during my time selling Cutco would just like not ask for referrals. The product is incredible. Most people, if the demo went well, even if they didn't buy, are like willing to give you a couple people that you can talk to. And so that, in all honesty, like taught me how to get over being like uncomfortable asking for orders, both asking for a sale and then asking for recommendations. So I just, you just got to run straight at it, right? Like it's uncomfortable at first and then you get used to it.
For sure. Yeah. If you can ask uncomfortable questions, not feel uncomfortable yourself doing so, you don't get what you don't ask for, right?
This is true. You do not.
And I imagine that probably has like a lot of parallels to your time as a carrier sales rep, trying to figure out where trucks are, where their buddies are, be able to kind of parlay those skills into freight sales.
Very much so. So when I got into freight, I had sold Cutco for 4 years previously. And then my first job out of college was with Kimberly-Clark Professional in a pretty high level kind of suit and tie sales job. I was selling toilet paper and tissue and soap and sanitizer to office buildings and hotels here in Chicago. And all of my decision makers were like probably mid 50s, like really long tenured real estate, property managers, stuff like that. So you had to like know what you're talking about, bringing the heat. So I learned high level sales stuff at KC, but transactional sales, I learned like quick transactional sales selling Cutco. So when I got into freight and my first job was in carrier sales, to be honest with you, I was like, wait a minute. You're telling me that I get to look at this load board all day, all these internal loads, and all I need to do is call drivers. And if we agree on a rate, then I can book the load and I'm going to get paid commission. And they like want the freight. This was like mind boggling to me because I have been selling things my entire life at that point, 5-6 years in sales. Right. And everybody I sold to did not want to talk to me. Yeah, and in carrier sales, like I'm negotiating, but like most of the time, like they do want to talk to you. It's like, this is sick.
Right. Very interesting. Totally different perspective when you think about it that way. But how long did you spend on the carrier sales floor?
I was on the carrier side of the business for 2 years. So I started January of 2014, and January of 2016 is when I moved over to manage a team of customer-facing sales reps. So I was on cared for 2 years. I loved it. It was a blast.
Sweet. Wonderful. So Coyote was a pretty successful business.
Very much so.
Yeah. What was it like being a sales guy? I guess you're now trying to, with Journey, right? At least I'm sure leverage a lot of the experience that you had at Coyote, and then I'd love to kind of get into Molo and the story there. But so how was that? How did you scale that sales team? What was it like being part of a couple of companies that did the rocket ship up into it, right?
Yeah, so when I got to Coyote, it was 2014. The business was started in 2008, so they were already a pretty, very well-known, successful organization, scaled out and whatnot. But it was still a startup feel, which was really cool. So when I got to the customer side, there were a handful of different customer managers managing SMB and mid-market sales teams, and then there were enterprise customer sales teams that were going after the large big dogs. And so it was cool to learn from people that had built successful books of business at one of the household names in the industry. Coyote was the household name, up and coming, continuing to grow. And I was there during the time that they acquired AAT, and then subsequently when they were acquired by UPS. So I got a chance to see all that stuff and learn throughout that process. But it taught me how to be scrappy. What I mean by that is my sales team, when they first started, could only call on customers sub $100 million in annual revenue. So as a leader, when you think about the opportunities that exist in that subset, the revenue of a customer will typically dictate, volume and things of that nature, just smaller customers. Doesn't mean they're bad. They just may not have as much volume. And so really had to learn how to prospect well and sift through good or bad opportunities, and then teach reps how to spend their time effectively, because you want to spend time with people that have daily truckload volume. That's what we excelled at Coyote. And so I think that kind of grit and determination taught me how to be a really good manager of people, because in all scenarios you're not always going to have all the cards stacked in your favor. Our team got there a little bit later. The business was already very well developed. There's a lot of good leads that are already spoken for. You got to make the most of what you can go after, and then once you grow, then you can graduate and get promoted to go after different types of business. So I learned how to prospect well, how to get in front of the right types of opportunities. And then I also think it was cool to learn how to sell as a multimodal service provider as my first stop. Sometimes truckload may be the only thing that an organization markets, but during my time at Coyote, we're selling truckload, LTL, reefer truckload, open deck, cross-border, international, outsourced 4PL solutions. And so when I kind of stepped out of that and saw that a lot of companies are just one-dimensional, I think it made me a better manager and a better seller, because you can think about multiple services and how you can present that to a customer. So fortunate to have had that opportunity.
For sure. Then so I guess Coyote gets bought by UPS. Did you stick around for a little while, or what happened?
They got bought in August of 2015, and I was there until January of 2017. So about 18 months after that.
Okay, cool. And then Molo. How did you get started there? Was there anything in between?
Mm-hmm. So I left Coyote January of 17. I went to Transport America for a short stint as a director of business development there, which was really cool. Learned the asset side. I was able to price some bids as an asset-based carrier and leverage the assets we had, leverage brokerage capacity. It's the first time really been able to do that. And then started working on Molo. I left there April of 17. I started working on Molo then, and then we launched Molo July of 2017.
Okay. Very cool. Obviously, very successful business. I guess ArcBest acquired you all. Did you stick around for a little while after that acquisition? What was that like, going from startup to a couple $100 million? Obviously, working along Andrew Silver, and I guess having worked for his father at Coyote. any kind of fun takeaways from that other than some capital to play around with from an angel investing perspective these days?
Yeah, the a really cool opportunity to be able to build that business. We scaled it from 0 to $615 million in revenue in our first 4 years. So when ArcBest acquired the business, we were at 615. Quite sizable, like craziest thing I've ever been a part of. But it's really cool to think about having a business that was a startup in 2017, in like a dusty office with everybody rolling their sleeves up, doing everything you can to grow, and scaling it to the point that an organization, a publicly traded company like ArcBest, has interest in acquiring it. And it was a lot of fun. When we launched day one, it's Stefan Mathis, one of our co-founders, Matt Vogrich, myself, and then Silver had a non-compete, so he had to sit out for a bit before he could come and join. And just like you think about day one, how improbable it is to have a successful exit, and then November of 21, 4 years later, like someone buys it. It's just I learned a lot. It was really cool. Fantastic opportunity. And then I stayed on for 18 months after the acquisition. At that point, leading our sales team, which was a lot of fun, helping to get in front of the right types of customers, continue to grow that group. But we grew to 1.25 billion in revenue in 2022, which is pretty cool. So I don't know how many more times I have a chance to say I co-founded a $1 billion company, but it was a pretty cool run.
Definitely, man. From 0 to 1 billion is not something that many people are able to do. I mean, is it the fastest growing brokerage since Coyote did it? So
I would say it is likely the fastest growing brokerage up to the $615 million mark. I don't know that any other organizations did it as quickly. When we were acquired, then we also absorbed ArcBest's brokerage, which had sizable revenue. So now you got those two orgs together and you continue to grow, get you over the $1 billion mark. So from an organic growth perspective, I don't know that there are many other companies that have gone from 0 to 615 in 4 years. So that's pretty cool. There's maybe one or two others, but not many.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly can't think of any. I know there's some quick ones growing these days. But anywho, I had something to follow up with there that I thought could be potentially interesting. Give me a moment and it'll come back to me. It's totally escaped my mind, Will.
No sweat.
Anything that's interesting you these days? I know that you're working on a couple of different things. You've got Journey, you've got Shipper CRM. Yeah, man. What's the latest? What are you excited about these days?
So I love the business that we're building here at Journey. We do recruiting, consulting, and training for freight brokerages, some asset-based companies, and some freight tech organizations. In the past year, we've worked with 112 customers doing one of those 3 services, which is really cool. It's just nice to be able to help those businesses grow. And so when I think about what I get most excited about for this year, it's the opportunity to continue scaling this business with the right people. We have an incredible team of 7, and we're able to really help businesses either go find the right talent, build the right type of structure to grow and scale their business, or train their team to go and execute the different roles and different functions well. And so we've got some pretty cool stories now of a few large, publicly traded top 20 players that we do some high level consulting with. That just, it just gets me really excited because there's so much opportunity in the space to help organizations succeed. Seemingly in the same regard, on the recruiting side and the training side, we have tons of organizations that are really, really successful, SMB or mid-market brokerages that may not have the right infrastructure to get in front of the type of talent that they want to hire. And so that part is cool to me because we get a chance to introduce really, really good talent to incredible companies. and then see those people go and thrive, you'll see those people succeed and be able to build their careers. Like, that's the feel good stuff. That gets you excited.
Right. That's
I'm sorry.
cool. Sorry. I was just saying it's a win-win.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then you've got the company that, is looking for the talent, and, you've got the experienced guy looking for the opportunity to help go scale something else, probably after having experience at a bigger shop. So, it's a really kind of unique service to be able to provide folks. And it's got to be really interesting. And it did kind of remind me what I wanted to hop into. It's interesting, right? You guys grew Molo at a time when there were a bunch of these tech-enabled brokerages selling totally different services than what it is that seemed like you guys were selling at Molo. And at the end of the day, right, counterintuitively to what like you probably would have been led to believe by a lot of the headlines, kind of the old school smile and dial brokerage. Not to say that you guys didn't have great tech, because I know that you guys did, but really just focusing on the I guess the people piece, right?
Totally.
Is that what do you think kind of sets apart the the great brokerage from the good brokerage?
So I think there are a handful of things. The first that you mentioned there is people. The only real differentiator outside of technology for a handful of companies is the people that are on the team. And so if you go and recruit the best, you train them well, you allow them to do their jobs and have ideas that make the business more efficient or lead in a manner that allows you to execute for your customers and your carriers more effectively, you're going to be able to beat a lot of players out there. But some companies don't necessarily put a large emphasis on finding the right types of people. And so that is a challenge. Like, you need to recruit the best and create an environment that makes the best people want to stay. Outside of that, like, brokerage is not that complicated. We source capacity. We find drivers that pick up shipments from point A to point B. We call customers to understand how we can help service their business. You can do it over and over and over again. If you communicate well, if you take care of your drivers, if you do what you say you're going to do, you can build a very large brokerage. And with those core principles, outpace most providers. I think most people aren't willing to do the right thing when nobody's looking, and they are okay with taking shortcuts, or not paying accessorials, or giving loads back, and not treating customers the way they need to be treated, or not treating carriers the people that they need to be treated. And it comes back to bite them in the end. I think this is a simple business, but it is not easy to execute.
Right. Exactly. Like Robert Bain, when I see him squatting 1,000 pounds, wherever the hell it is.
Absolute dog.
Absolute animal. For sure. But anyways, there's something you said there that I wanted to hit on. Like, what are the biggest pitfalls with hiring brokerage talent? You mentioned hiring the right folks is something that people trip up on sometimes.
I think there's a lot. Most of it comes down to, is the person the type of person that can work well in a team environment? And are they someone that's like coachable and willing to learn? I don't particularly care too much about the background, unless you're hiring specifically for a role that must have experience in order for them to come in and execute it. But if you're just hiring for entry-level talent and you're trying to bring people in and teach them how to do the business, also, if you're hiring experienced talent, you need to be looking for the fit for the organization. But you need to know, is that person willing to work on a team, be collaborative, roll their sleeves up? Are they solutions oriented? Do they find ways to solve problems instead of blame shift? And that comes from really like thorough, in-depth conversations. And a lot of times you have to ask the right questions to elicit the type of answers to give you an idea. Hey, is this person the fit? And you're not going to nail it in every scenario, but being able to ask the right types of questions to understand if someone's going to be able to come in and execute for you is super important, especially in an environment like ours where nothing gets done in a silo. Like, freight is very much so a team. business. Very, very, very much so.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Kind of I don't know. I guess what you're saying there with the hiring, it's we say like a hire slow, kind of fire fast, know what you're looking for, and make sure that you talk with folks long enough to get a real feeling for whether or not they can be a team player and they believe in what you're selling.
I don't know that I'm saying hire slow and fire fast, but I think if the organization doesn't know what they're looking for in the role, like what do you want this person to be able to do? What type of person do you need for this particular role? Then you won't know what questions to ask and how to filter people out that may not be a fit for your business. And I think the reason why that's important is on the journey side of our recruiting business today. We have hundreds of clients that we do work with. They're all different. So they need different types of candidates. They need different types of experience. And so being able to ask the right questions to identify if someone is a fit for the role for us is crucial to be able to present the right talent. That same principle exists one by one by one with those companies. Like, what are you looking for? Cool. Let's identify what that looks like. What's the type of person that can succeed in this role? And if you don't know those two things, you're not going to be able to run a good interview process to know if somebody's going to be a fit.
Absolutely. That's something you guys do. You help folks kind of define what they're looking for. I'm sure folks a lot of times know they think they know what they're looking for, but it's kind of hard to translate that into a hiring process.
Yeah, we're super meticulous on the recruiting side of our business. There are, a lot of organizations that we have some preliminary conversations with and determine, may not be a fit for that side of our business because the structure isn't in place or, they're not really sure what type of candidate they're looking for. But we are very deliberate around, hey, walk us through and give us information on what this person, what characteristics they need, what roles they need to have had, what you need to see them do when they get here, because that helps us get a better picture of who to go find.
Yeah, for sure. One interesting nugget from the, Andrew Silver interview with his dad was, they like hiring people that have played sports, right? Team sports. Is that something you look for as well? Haven't been a guy playing sports previously in your life?
Yeah. So I think team-oriented experience is very, very helpful in this space. So I played football in college. I played football for 4 years at a high level. I've been on teams my entire life. I think it translates well to freight. A lot of the most successful people that I've had the opportunity to work with have been high-level athletes or people that have succeeded in a team environment prior to getting into the work that they're a part of today. So I do, see a lot of very successful athletes transitioning well into freight brokerage and sales and things of that nature. But generally, I think like having worked on teams consistently is super, super important before you step into a role like this, because it just helps you understand how to navigate that. Obviously, I'm incredibly competitive because I played sports at a high level. So, that sure doesn't hurt when you step into the business world.
Certainly does not. Love some good gamification myself. You can involve the leaderboard. I'm all for it. But anywho, what's up with Shipper CRM? It's one of the newer things that I saw on your profile.
Yep. So I invested in that business back in October. It is a lead database and a CRM for brokerages and asset-based companies to find the right types of shippers that they should be in front of. I got a chance to get to know Paul and Christian throughout the course of 2023 into 2024, and had some conversations around joining as an investor. It's really cool to see what they've been able to do and the amount of customers that they've been able to add on that side. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it's the best place for brokerages and asset-based companies to be if they're looking for the right types of contacts to sell to and the right types of shippers to market their services to. And, quite simply, it saves hundreds of hours of research and helps people get in front of the right types of contacts. So it's been really cool. We also have integrated our training into Shipper CRM. So people that license Shipper CRM get access to Journey's training. And so long term, you think about being able to perform your job at an effective level. If you don't have good training resources, it's tough to know how to cold call well or write a good email, prospect, things of that nature. That's the core part of what people are doing if they are accessing Super CRM. So trying to enable them to manage their books of business more effectively and find the right types of customers.
Very cool. Checking out the website now and certainly come across, Christian, and I guess those are the Freight Gone guys, right? Or the Freight Caviar boys. They've started up their own CRM. Is that something you can bill out of as well? If you're using it to track sales deals?
I didn't hear what you said. Did you say bill out of?
Yeah. Is it something that, they could like contract?
No. Right now it is a lead database and a CRM.
Okay. Cool. Anywho, I appreciate you coming on, Will. I don't know that I have anything else that I'd like to hit on with you, but I appreciate you hopping on. Anything that you want to hit on while we have each other?
No, man, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
All right, see you.
Peace. Thanks, everybody.